Welcome back, Uncommon Thread family.
Welcome, everybody.
Welcome. We are on episode 12.
Wow,
Can you believe it?
incredible.
It is so insane. I cannot believe 12, like the disciples. We are here for the long haul, but this is episode 12. So thank you for joining us,
Yes,
Uncommon family. Tom, how's it going on your end?
man, so good, so blessed. Just it's getting like good, like crazy blessed. So excited just what all God's doing and allowing, me to do. And so I'm just thankful. So yeah, everybody's good over here and I'm thankful. So how about you? How are you doing?
Same. I mean, it's so insanely busy, but
Yeah,
busy in a good way, like just blessed and busy.
yes.
Just thankful for all that we have. God continues to just surprise us in all
Man,
the
every
good
day,
ways
right?
every
Like
day.
every day. I
Every
love
day.
that.
Yes. It's like, and I mean, and I just, again, just so believing that this is only the beginning, which is crazy because this is
Yeah.
already an amazing year so far. And so I'm just excited. I'm excited for what God's doing in our lives and for what's to come. And Uncommon Thread family, again, if you're connected to us, then it won't be long for you either. So I'm excited
Yeah.
for to hear your testimonies.
Yeah. We appreciate you watching and just continuing to support this and just love it. Love it. Love it. I'm so thankful.
Yay! So tonight, fam, we're going to talk about uncommon courage. So just as Tom talked about last week, I know
So
everything
good.
here is
Can't wait.
uncommon. So I'm so excited about that. And I actually found something really amazing in the U version app that I wanted to read to everyone today. And so talk about uncommon courage. It says, if there ever was a message you needed in today's culture, it is do not be afraid. Keep on speaking. Do not be silent. This is Acts 18 and 9. And it says, in a world full of ideas and beliefs that go against God's word, God wants you to have uncommon courage.
My goodness.
So I want to talk about that. Like, I think this is so incredible. And even though, we talk a lot about 2024, Tom and I were talking about this earlier, we haven't really touched the surface of
Yeah.
2024, but I do think it had a lot of uncommon courage moments um,
Yes.
in there for sure. And I know you, fam, have a lot of uncommon
Yeah.
courage that happens on your end. So, Tom, what do you think about defining uncommon courage? What does that look like to you?
Man, I think uh, the first thing that came to my mind was just something our pastor says all the time is
Hmm.
do it with your knees knocking,
Yeah,
right? Do it afraid.
good one.
Uh,
Yes.
those big things that God's called you to do or telling you to do,
Yes.
you have to just do. Peter got out of the boat and
Ooh,
walked on the water towards Jesus.
yes.
That is uncommon courage to me because the other 11
Good.
guys stayed in the boat, right? He was the only one that
Literally.
got out. That's
Yeah.
uncommon courage to me.
Totally. I mean, totally uncommon courage. And that's the other thing that she always says is like, I'm going to jump and he's going to teach me to fly or catch me when I fall. And so I
Yes.
love, and like that is uncommon courage too, right? Like to just be like, well, God will get me one way or the other. So,
Right.
but I'm going to do it. And I think that's impactful. And I can tell you under her spiritual leadership, I have embraced a level of courage and fearlessness and boldness and the love for God that I wouldn't have probably known without that leadership. So I'm always
Yeah.
thankful and for her courage because she came from a religion that didn't even acknowledge women as pastors
Yeah.
like grew up. So just her being willing to take that risk and do all these things and she's in the South where that's very
Yeah.
uncommon too.
Yeah.
So I mean just yeah, she's bold, fearless leader. So thanks to her.
Yeah. That's exactly right. I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah,
That's the kind of leader you need in your life, right? Somebody that actually leads by example.
literally.
You know, instead of do as I say, not as I do. It's
Hmm.
it's both do as I say and do as I do. And do
Yes, yes,
better, do more
yes.
than that.
And don't have to be perfect. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, and that's the part that I've always loved about her as well. Is like we've literally seen her in the best of times at the worst of times. And
yeah,
so, and she was always fully transparent. And I think it allows us to be more human and feel less judged. And so I think she's just an incredible
yeah.
pastor for sure.
Me too.
Yes. Yes,
Me
yes, yes.
too. Yeah, and I think that uh, uncommon is always going to be something in our titles to our podcast because that's what we this
Yes.
whole thing is, right? Uh, but uncommon lets us know that not everybody's doing it. So that's the other thing that I love about that
Yeah.
is swimming upstream, going against the, you know,
Mm-hmm.
what everybody's doing. Sometimes you might be the only one,
Yeah.
you may feel like you're the only one going against the crowd, right? And
Mm-hmm.
not following the status quo.
Yeah.
But when God speaks something to you, I also love, when God called me, when he called you, he didn't call a conference call. There's
Mm.
going to be, there's going to be things that he tells us and
Yeah.
lays on our hearts to do that aren't going to make sense to other people around us. And that's
Mm-hmm.
uncommon courage. Like you have to just know that you know. I mean, God
Yes.
said it. That's it, period. Right. So,
Period. Like literally period, like in the sentence, done. And so there is
yes.
like there is literally no contesting it. And I love that I think you and I are some of the first in our family to do things too.
Yeah.
I
Yeah. Yeah.
think I'm
Yeah.
the first to do a podcast in my
Yeah.
family, and you're probably the first to write two books in the same year. Like, I mean, I think
Yeah.
God is just he took two really uncommon people to begin with, and then threw us together in the most God only way.
Yeah.
Because again, we live on two different areas of the world,
Yeah.
same country, but in two different, very different areas, have two different backgrounds. But I fully see what God is doing here with the uncommon commonality that is Tom and I. So I
Yeah.
think it's such a cool thing.
Me too. Well, and speaking to the podcast, it it took uncommon courage for us to even
Yeah.
do this podcast, right? Because we had to
Yep.
figure out there's so many things we had to figure out
Oh,
logistically,
yes.
geographically, how is this going to work?
Yes.
We what platform's going to work for us, and
Yes.
and we just sort of figured it out as we went. There's lots of times
Literally.
where we sit on Zoom together for hours
Yep.
trying to figure it out, and,
Yeah.
and thankfully, Destiny, your tenacious
Yeah. Thank
tenacity,
you.
we figured it out. And so
Thank you.
I think that we are an example of uncommon courage because
Amen.
who's, you know, yeah,
It was such a journey. And you were so incredibly patient through all of it because I rescheduled us so many times. So many times. Like it was an insane year for both of us. And
yeah,
every single time, and I think even one day you said to me, like, that's not even typically how I am. He goes, and I was just fine with it. Like I just kind of moved on and like, and I was like, oh, and I appreciate that because of course the enemy made me feel horrible. Like every inside, like I know we gotta do this, and I keep having to reschedule and all these different things. But again, that uncommon courage to just persevere, like because the world would have told us based on our year to just have taken a rest,
yeah,
to just
yeah,
have taken a rest, to
yeah.
have given ourselves the time. And we didn't. We still, we pulled ourselves up by our bootstraps and God showed us how to make this happen. And so here we are.
And
I
here
love
we are. And I love what you just said, Destiny, because it just reminded me that when you do have uncommon courage and you step out and do what God's called you to do, this is invigorating for me. When we get to do this, it fills me, right? It replenishes. It feels like even though we're giving, we're talking,
it.
about what God tells us to talk about, but it does. Like I always end these, and just like God, thank you for letting me be in your presence for an
Yeah.
hour or however long we go. We were talking, last week we went way over our time.
Yeah.
So thank
Yes.
you for everybody who's
Thank
watched
you.
that. It was a
Please.
really long time
Thank
and
you.
we were literally just in it, right? And we
Yeah.
just,
We had no
and
idea.
we're still learning. Like we're
Yeah.
gonna get better and better. And, maybe eventually we'll, edit and split it into two or three or
Right.
whatever. But
Right.
we were just in it. And
Yeah.
uh, so I really feel like this is some of those like just a good, uh replenishes my spirit to get to do this, and share, because it reminds me, right? Can get to hear us, and it's like,
Yes.
yeah, I needed that, so
Yes.
we hope we always bless you guys out there, Uncommon Thread families. So anyway, so we always like to talk about the uh, definitions, right?
Yes.
I think I say that probably every time we do this, but anyway.
We do.
So
We love it.
the Oxford definition of courage is the ability to do something that frightens one or you. Um, and their example said she called on all her courage to face the situation.
Mhm.
Uh, so it's the ability to do something that frightens you,
Yeah.
the ability, the action. It gives you that, where I think we've said before, you get to a point where you're past the point of no return. You can't go back. You only have to keep going forward.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, it's right there. It's gonna scare you,
Yes.
but you have that ability, that I gotta do it, scared or not.
Yes. Yes. And I was gonna say we were just on a call again back to our pastor who again I just can never give her enough flowers.
Literally.
But but and she said something that oh I think I wrote actually wrote down it was oh I ain't folding and she's like the only time I'm gonna be folding is if I'm in a laundromat and I love that because I think that is the the most southern way of saying
Yep.
I have
I ain't
uncommon
quitting.
courage. I'm not quitting. I'm not
Yeah.
quitting because
Yeah.
that's not what God called me to do. That's not who God called me to be. And I love that. And I even wrote it down like I said, I read it. So I wrote it down on a sticky note because I was like, that is going to be my motto for this year and the years to come because that is it's such a brilliant way to look at life and just say yeah, you can rest, but we're gonna get back up again. We're
Yeah.
gonna keep pushing. And again, I ain't folding.
I
So
ain't
I
folding.
loved it.
Right. My quote from tonight was, your comfort zone is your cage.
Mm,
Your comfort zone is your cage. And so
yes.
I feel like it goes perfectly with what we're talking about with uncommon courage. Is your comfort zone is keeping you
Yeah.
set. It's going to take uncommon courage for you to move out of your comfort zone and do something that's you wouldn't normally do. Uh, and that's what it is. The other definition is strength in the face of pain or grief.
Mm,
Strength in the face of pain or grief.
mm,
Uncommon
mm,
courage to get up after we there's a lady that's in our group that lost her husband. She came to Atlanta in January, and when she went home, I think he was gone. He had just passed in his
mm.
sleep. And it took uncommon courage. This is real life stuff,
Yeah.
right? These are the people that we're close to,
Yeah.
that
Right.
we are doing life together.
Hmm.
But it took uncommon courage for her to
Hmm.
continue to move forward.
I had
And that's
to.
that real life, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, the
Like you
world
said,
would
you
have
can
told her,
fold or you
yes.
can keep going.
Yeah, yes. And the world would have totally justified her staying there.
Yeah. Of
Like, I
course. She just
mean,
lost her husband. What? Love of her life. Like,
yes, yes. Not only that, but then it's like the enemy probably was like, well, you left and went on your retreat, and then you come back, right? So you miss your, like, and so that's where the enemy plays with you too. Meanwhile, she needed to go to that retreat for
Yeah.
herself. Her
Yeah.
husband was going to go anyway.
Yeah.
And so, like that, but that's again how uncommon courage can be, is you're going to go and do things that the world is going to try to judge you on, or will say you need to do it differently.
Yeah.
But you know what God's called you to do, and you know that, God was going to call him home regardless. So,
Right. Right. Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
exactly. Yep. But that ability to do something that frightens you, um, it just, I mean, we could be on here all night talking about all the scenarios, right? Just because
yes.
it's so good. So good.
Well, and I love that the example it gave, that he fought his illness with great courage. And that struck me because even in what we're talking to our master class earlier, someone was saying when she was literally dealing with cancer, she would take Post-its and surround herself with scripture as a reminder of like who she is, who God is, and that's how she fought cancer. And it's
Yeah.
like, again, that uncommon courage to say, I don't care what the doctor's reports say. Like,
Yep.
I don't care, right, what the lab reports say. I don't care, right? Because
Yeah.
I know what the
Yeah.
Lord says, and He says, by His stripes I am healed. And so that's what I'm going
Yeah.
to stand on and believe for. And I even had that conversation with a family member a few weeks ago where they tried to tell them that they were going to be in kidney failure as a completely
Mm,
healthy active member of society. And I was like, that doesn't make any sense.
right.
It doesn't make any sense. And that's an uncommon courage. It's like, but what do we believe?
Right.
And then the praise report came back weeks later that they should
Yep.
drink more water. Like they weren't going to have kidney failure. And so I just think uncommon courage is just walking boldly, understanding who you are in Christ,
Yep.
understanding regardless of what the world says or thinks or whatever you see, you know who you are, where you're going, and there's just no question about who's going to catch you if you fall or if
Yep.
you fly. There's no question.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And again, I don't think we could ever say this enough, Destiny, but that's why it's so important who you surround yourself with, your circle,
Important.
because uncommon courage, it demands that you have the right people around you, because if if you step out and start doing these big things but you have terrible negative
Mm.
people around, well, you can't do
Hmm.
that. You can't go rent that event space. Where are you going to get $5,000? That's a whole lot of
Woo.
money to do
Amen.
that. And who's going to come? And all the negative
Yes.
things that come along with it, right?
Amen. Yes.
But God said,
Yes. Yes.
but God said.
That's it.
So if he said, then he's going to provide. If he said,
Everything.
you know,
Yes. Yes. So good. So good. And to your point, I can tell you just in my own life, that comfort zone being a cage was with old friends. Because I had old friends that were definitely my comfort zone. We would travel together. We would go out to eat all the time. We would go
yeah,
out all
come
the
on,
time.
come
But when
on.
I tell you, it was when I broke that cage, when I left, had a really uncomfortable conversation and had to set some really uncomfortable boundaries. When God really opened the doors for me in my life. And so I'm just saying that to encourage someone, if you have any doubts about if your circle is your cage or not, um, if you're questioning it, then yes. To me,
Right.
like I feel like there's
So
no like,
good.
if you're
So good.
questioning it, then yes, because that's who I was. I was running it past everybody else, and I was like, this is crazy. And some
Yeah.
people agreed, and some people
Yep.
didn't. And so finally, I went to God, and God's like, really? Like I've been showing you this person,
Yep.
and that is how you can have uncommon courage, because the world will say, right? I think it's kind of what's that saying? Like if you're friends with somebody for more than 10 years, you're friends with them for life, or whatever the
Yeah.
case may be. Like if you're, like if you call somebody your sister, then they have to be your sister. No, that's not true. That is not
Hmm.
true. You can literally, you can literally have people in your life who were ride or die one season and literally are going to be what kills you in another season.
Come
And
on.
so
Yes.
And so you just have to make that choice and you have to have that uncommon courage to say, the whole world's going to talk about how I left this friendship,
Yep.
but it doesn't matter what the world thinks.
Yep.
It matters what
Yep.
God thinks.
Yep. Absolutely. And I think that well, I know that you were talking about, but putting up boundaries. Sometimes they may be small boundaries.
Yes.
And maybe you have to start with that. It still takes uncommon courage to set
It does.
boundaries with someone that has had carte blanche access to you for
Mm-hmm.
10 years, 15 years.
Yeah.
It is a process. And then sometimes you have to deal with the aftermath. We
Yeah.
talked about this before of of that, right? Your circle, your comfort zone becomes your cage.
Yeah.
But sometimes then it's still, but uncommon courage is facing those situations
Mhm.
and saying, I'm not going to be defensive about this.
Right.
I worked hard to get this piece,
Mhm. Yeah.
and I'm still gonna face some situations where I'm gonna have to have uncommon courage to say, you're right, I did do that. I
Yeah.
apologize,
Yeah.
or whatever the situation. I apologize that I was loyal to
Mm.
a narcissistic,
Yeah.
manipulative person,
Ooh.
or I'm sorry that whatever. That takes courage to be able to
Oh,
face
gosh.
people, and you may be a wreck inside, but
Mm-hmm.
manage to keep, God, give me courage, give me strength.
Yeah.
I need something that's beyond me,
Yes.
and that's, I think, what we're saying is
Yeah.
it may be small to somebody else, but
Yes.
it's ginormous in the scheme of things, right? That you
Oh,
set those boundaries. You stop answering the phone every time they call.
yes.
You stop, taking every invitation to go.
Amen.
Like you were saying, those are those important things, and it does take courage.
It
So
is. It is, and
yeah,
very uncommon courage because it's so comforting to stay with what you know.
yeah, yeah,
So comforting because you know what to expect. As human beings, we
yeah,
like some sort of routine. We like some sort of consistency.
yeah,
It's human nature. And so even if that routine and consistency is somewhat toxic, right, we can get used to that even.
yeah,
But
yeah,
as you grow and as you heal, then you realize this isn't for me. And again, it's, what's that saying about how like, you think if you play with the devil, you can change the devil, but eventually the devil changes you. And so that's how that works. If you continue to stay around toxic people, you're growing and trying to change, but they're keeping you bound. They're going
yep,
to eventually change you. That toxicity does rub off. And again, that was my testimony for sure before,
yeah.
I left Indiana and moved to Georgia. And I think that was because I was willing to make that really uncommon courage decision to leave my friend circle. So,
Right. And that's a whole
yeah.
testimony, Destiny.
Amen.
Hacking, hearing God say,
Phew.
move to a different state,
Yeah.
thousands of miles away,
Yeah.
or at least 1,000. I don't know exactly how
Yeah.
far it is, but
Yeah.
a
That's right.
ways, right? A
Yeah.
whole
Yeah.
different state, a whole different group of people, a whole
Yeah.
different,
Yeah.
everything.
Oh, yeah.
That takes uncommone courage. That's that.
It's literally that. And not only that, but like to be obedient. And another thing we talked
Yes.
about tonight
Yes.
is 1 ounce of obedience will do more for you than all the prayer in the world.
Love
That
that.
was that scenario as well. I was sitting here, and I'll kind of recap that testimony really quickly because it is uncommon courage. It's
Yeah.
uncommon courage to be sitting in Atlanta, Georgia, just celebrating a friend's birthday. I was still living in Indiana. We had just built a home in Indiana. Um,
Oh, I didn't know that.
yeah, yeah, we had.
Wow.
It was maybe a year old. By the time we had, yeah, just built a home, had a horrible experience building that home because it was in the pandemic. And
Of
so,
course.
yeah, horrible. It was horrible. Experience. Had a fantastic interest rate, but horrible experience building during the pandemic because, yeah, it was the pandemic. So you can imagine. So I'm sitting here and I'm at a bowling alley, waiting for a lane to open up, which never does, by the way. but that's a sidebar. But we're still waiting, and but in that quiet, still moment of just waiting, I feel like the Lord drops in my spirit. I need to move here, and I say that, like, just say that out loud randomly to the friend group, and I was like, "You know what's crazy?" I was like, "I feel like I need to move to Georgia," and they were like, "Girl, everybody says that. Like, you come here, you have a great time, and then everybody says they're going to move to Georgia," and I was like, "Yeah, I don't know." And then the next day, same thing. I wake up and I was like, now I'm in the line at Chick-fil-A. Again, another not odd but interesting place to be. And I'm in the line at Chick-fil-A, and again, I'm like, I think I'm supposed to live in Georgia. So I literally, while I'm waiting in line, another still quiet moment, waiting in the drive-through, I call my husband, and he had mentioned that there was a role in Atlanta months prior that was open. And I was like, hey, weird thought, is that position still open? He was like, I don't know. Like, but why? And I was like, I don't know. I was like, I just feel like we need to move. I was like, what do you think about Georgia? And he was like, I don't know. Now, you guys, mind you, I have to give you a little backstory. My husband absolutely loved his job where he
Yeah,
was at. I was
yeah.
fully remote. He was going into an office every day, Monday through Friday, loved his job, had been with this company with that team for several years, loved our home, told me he was not moving again because of all we had gone through to get that house, in the pandemic. And I was like, okay, God
Holy
told
cow.
me to not bring it up ever again. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, how does that work?
Come on.
And so
Uncommon
it's
courage right there.
uncommon courage. So 1 ounce obedience will do more for you than all the prayer in the world. He
Because
told
you
me
had to just,
I literally had to stop. I literally had to stop because what I had in my flesh was an arsenal that was like, well, I've moved 6 times for you and your company. You can move this one time for me, and da 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 da. But what God needed was glory for this story. And so he told me to stay quiet. I stayed quiet
yep.
because, again, being obedient, I stayed quiet. Weeks later, he says, you know what? I'm going to go ask about that land position. Okay. He asked about it. A few more weeks go by. We come back to do the retreat in January. He goes and tours the plant, comes to the retreat, tells our pastor he thinks he's going to be moving here for a job. First time he's ever said that.
Now, how were you feeling during all this? Like when he said that he would do that, and then when he said like what's going on with you? Because God's just like,
And I
but
can't say anything.
are you just like, oh,
I'm
oh,
shocked. I'm shocked. And the part of me is like, because that's where I normally jump in and encourage, like, okay, so when are you gonna talk to your boss? And when are you gonna go with HR? And da, 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 da. And I can't say a thing. And I can't say a thing. And I'm just like, okay, well, just keep me posted. Okay, just keep me posted. And the pastor's like, so when you guys moving? And I'm shocked. So she's like, well, just pray on it and come back. That was January. This was in December. I had the feeling. This was January. He says he thinks he's moving here. February rolls around. They basically sit him down and are like, you know what? We're not going to interview you for the position. It's open. It's been open for months. You can have it. You tell us when you want your family to move. We'll give you a relocation package to cover everything. And we wish you all the best. And school year ends in May. We moved to Georgia, and the rest is history. We have a house here, and again, the whole entire time, it's just me not saying anything, but just being like, okay, well, thank you for the update. Okay, well, how can I help? Thank you for the update. And that was it. And that was it.
which is so hard, y'all, right? Because
Guys,
we like to talk.
we love to talk.
That would be like uncommon courage to just
Oh, torture.
like, okay, God, I'm gonna
Oh,
need
torture.
this chapstick to be super glue.
And then my friend who was there was like asking me what's going on. She's like, hey, so what's he saying? Like, what's happening? I was like, I can't say anything.
Right.
Right? Because she's like there the whole entire time witnessing me calling on the phone because she's in the car with me and da 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 da. And she's like, what's going on? Like, like and I was like, I can't say anything. And then I'm updating her and she's like, it's literally one of those things to where you had to see it to believe it. She's like, she goes, it's literally one of the testimonies that always sticks with me to this day because I literally witnessed God take you from in 3 months, like he took you from one situation to a completely different situation, and you didn't do anything, like, but be obedient.
And I love because this next thing is and we're getting close on our time, but it is so beautiful because Christian courage includes doing what is right, even if it's unpopular. It also includes
Mm,
living honestly and honoring vows. So I feel like that was like a vow that God gave you, is to
yeah,
just zip it,
literally. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
you were doing what was right
Yeah.
according to what God told you, right? Because He
Yeah.
spoke that to you, you spoke it out, and
Hmm.
then God just started doing it. Because when God does it,
Yeah. Right.
it still took courage for you
Yeah.
guys to physically pack your things
1,000%.
and move here,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Uh, and I know, I love the part, maybe we'll be able to tell it later because Destiny has such a great story, and there's so much more to it
So
about
much.
the plant in Georgia and
Yes.
all of that stuff, and just what God's done in
Oh
two
my God.
years is just
Yes.
ridiculous, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was your uncommon courage
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
even say something. What if you hadn't even said anything?
Right.
Oh, that's a random thing. Like your
Yes.
friend had said, oh,
Yeah.
everybody wants to move here when
Everybody
we
wants to
come
move
because it's
here.
fun,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Who wouldn't want to be here?
Yeah, because he'd already told me he wasn't moving again. He already told me how much he loved his plant. And so it would have been totally the norm to just be like, oh, that was an interesting thought. I'm going to move on because how
Right,
would that even happen anyway?
right, right.
My God. I know.
Because it's God, it's uncommon courage. Like
Oh,
that's what
yeah.
will, so,
Yeah.
so, so good. I love that story. I mean, it's just because it's so uh, and then, where we connect and we intersect with people
Yeah.
at just the right time. Now,
So,
you probably would have been at the retreat anyway, but still, it is uncommon courage sets you up for the blessings that God has just by being at the right place. Like I said, and intersecting with people,
yes.
it can literally help you change your life, become so important in your life, right? So important in your circle to, I mean, Destiny, you and I have already shared some stuff that it's just like when we share, it's like, okay, well, but okay, so what are we gonna do? I mean, we just start.
Literally.
It
Yeah.
just starts.
Yes.
Okay, it's like nothing.
Yes.
Nothing is too much, right? I mean, I don't know that I can say anything that would be you'd be like, well, I don't know about that.
Right. Literally at this, no, I mean, and I mean, even if it's like I pause for a moment to like process it, it'd be like, okay, well, and now what? And like, and that is just kind of, and that's just the uncommon courage because I think that act of obedience of us doing this podcast
Yeah,
gave us another sense of courage and boldness and fearlessness to be like, well, God called us on this. Then he'll catch us on the next thing he assigns us, and then the next thing, and the next thing, and the third thing, um, and so
yeah,
now it's just, I'm just living in awe now
same.
because
Yes,
of, right? Because now
yeah.
it's just like, well, holy goodness, like what happens next? Because this feels incredible, and it's just like, but I keep hearing more, but wait, there's more, but wait, there's more, and it's like that Amos 9:13.
Yep, yep.
God's decree, things will happen so fast, our head's gonna spin, blessing upon blessing, we'll be able to keep up. Literally is this year. And it's only
Already, and it's
February.
only
Yeah,
February,
yeah,
right? I mean, we're knocking on the door of March, but
yeah.
yeah, we're literally seeing that, and God has already spoken big things to us. We can't wait to share
Yes,
because
amen.
it's big,
It's
and and it
huge.
and it's it is it is requiring uncommon courage, you know. when you step out and you send an
Hmm.
email and they're like, oh, this is what, all of this.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean,
Yeah.
you and I've gotten pretty good at doing some quick math.
Literally.
But
God's gonna write the check. Yeah.
there's this fun thing, there's girl math and
Yes.
all this other kind of
Yes.
math. That
Yes.
I saw something the other day. It's like girl math is uh spending $50 more so you can get free shipping, you know. Uh
Totally.
but
Yeah.
but there's
Totally.
God math.
It's so
And
God math. It
God
is.
math says I
Yeah.
will take two fish and five loaves of bread and
Come on,
feed,
Tom.
thousands
Amen.
and thousands and thousands of people,
Yes.
you know.
Yeah.
Uh, and that's God math,
That's
right?
God math.
He will say,
Literally.
I'll take your yes
Yes.
and I'll multiply it
There's it. Yeah.
and bring all the people into your life that you need to help you do what I've called you to do.
Yes.
But all you got to do is give me your yes, which
Yes.
takes uncommon courage because, I mean, it, it
Literally.
never gets smaller, right? God only asks you to
No.
do bigger things.
No. Yeah.
It's like graduating up. You don't go back to, you know,
Right.
junior high.
Right.
You go junior high, elementary,
Yes.
junior high, high
So
school,
good.
college,
Yeah.
whatever, whatever.
Right. Right. And if you slide back, that'd be on your own accord. Like that would be your own
Yes.
doing,
Yes.
right? But God's not going to push you back. Like once He has your
Oh,
yes and you're walking in your purpose and being obedient, He's going to continue to elevate you. Like that's just
yeah.
how that works. And
Yeah.
I love that. I love God math and I love Godfidence too. That's always one of my favorite words is
Yeah.
the confidence that God gives is unlike anything other. That is uncommon courage, is having confidence to just do
Yeah.
something because God is backing you. God, like I said, God is
Yeah.
writing that check for God math. God is pushing you. He's that wind in your sails when you're stuck and you need to get going. That's God. Like He got you.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. And uncommon courage uh, allows you to hear from God
yeah,
and act on what He says.
yeah,
Because like you said, he's the one that's going to write the check. So, okay, God,
yeah.
uh, I'm just thankful I get to be on the ride,
Right?
I get to be a part of it.
Yeah.
So, man, this is so good tonight. Oh my gosh. I, I am just so encouraged and I hope you guys are too out there. And, just getting to share is incredible. And, uh, like you said, Destiny, 2024 was that year
So good.
of
Yeah.
we lived this. And so
Yeah.
and now we're living it kind of in a different way of, now we're getting the assignments.
Yeah.
And we're saying, okay, God, well, you brought me through that. So you're gonna keep doing it. So
Yes.
anyway,
And He is, and He
so
keeps
good.
showing up, and He's consistent, and He's faithful, and He's good. And so I'm excited to continue this. I mean, if we want to do an uncommon courage part two, I'm open to that.
Yeah.
Because I do agree we have so much more to share.
Yeah.
But we also want to be very mindful of your time, and we
Yeah.
appreciate you spending, your time with
Yeah.
us for sure.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. So please subscribe if you haven't already. Share with somebody that may need to hear this word. Maybe we said something that like, oh, your friend needs to hear this. Share it with them so that they can know uh, and just drop some comments if there's something that we said that
Yes, absolutely.
please let us know. So we are just so thankful to get to do this. Uh, it's so good. I did want to show off our swag we got
Yeah.
coming. Uh, this
So
uh,
good.
may not be on a blue hoodie because that I don't know what it'll look like, but anyway, just had to show that off just a little bit. I'm super
Yes.
proud of it, and
Yes. And speaking of, I mean, that's uncommon courage too, to not only start a podcast, but then to be like, we're gonna make some merch out of it, a couple
yeah,
months in. And so,
yeah,
just kudos to Tom for jumping, taking that leap for us and starting that. So I just am just so thankful to Thom as always, and thankful to God most importantly
Thank
for
you.
this putting us together. Because again, I think this is powerful, and we just
Yeah.
want to thank you for liking our podcast and for subscribing. And if you're
Yes.
ever just want to listen to us, we're also on Spotify, so come check us out
Yes.
over there. And we'd love to
Yes.
see you.
Yes. 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 And same to you, Destiny. Thank you so much for everything. I love getting to do this, and it's incredible. So
Yes.
yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, thank you, Uncommon Thread fam. We will see
Thank
you next
y'all. Love
week.
y'all. Yes.